The spring rain drummed against the bakery's front windows, each droplet racing down the glass like tears I'd stopped allowing myself to cry 3 months ago. My hands worked mechanically, kneading dough that smelled of yeast and possibility, the same bread I'd been making since dawn. The ache in my lower back had become a constant companion, a reminder of the life growing inside me, the secret I carried like both burden and blessing. "Julia, the Moretti order needs to go out in 20 minutes, Angela called from the front counter, her voice cutting through the white noise of the industrial mixer. The name didn't register at first. It should have. God, it should have. I wiped flour-dusted hands on my apron, the simple white fabric stretched tight over the small bump I could no longer completely hide. 4 months along, and still every morning I woke surprised by the reality of it. A baby. My baby. No one else's. The bakery's warmth wrapped around me like a cocoon, the oven's radiating heat that made my cheeks flush, and my borrowed uniform cling to my skin. This place had become my sanctuary, my fresh start after everything fell apart. Sweet endings. Bakery, tucked into a corner of the arts district, far enough from Oliver's world that I'd thought I was safe. I'd been wrong about so many things. "I'll box it up," I said, moving to the cooling racks where 24 pastries waited. Golden and perfect, still warm to the touch. My fingers worked with practiced efficiency, folding boxes, arranging croissants and pain au chocolat with the care they deserved. Simple, honest work. Work that didn't require me to navigate treacherous waters or wonder which smile hid a knife. The bell above the door chimed, and I didn't look up. Angela would handle whatever customer had braved the rain. I was better in the back, better invisible. That's how I'd survived these past months, by making myself small, unremarkable, just another woman with flour in her hair and dreams that didn't come true. Julia. Angela's voice had changed, gone tight with something I couldn't identify. "Someone's here for the Moretti order." My hands stilled on the box I was closing. Moretti. That name. It couldn't be. It was a common Italian name. There were probably hundreds of Morettis in this city. Thousands. It didn't have to be. "Julia?" A voice from my nightmares and my dreams, smooth as aged whiskey, and just as intoxicating. A voice that had once whispered promises against my skin, had murmured my name like a prayer, had said goodbye with a finality that shattered me. I looked up. Oliver Moretti stood in the doorway between the front counter and the kitchen, and the world tilted on its axis. 6 months. It had been 6 months since I'd seen him, since he'd chosen duty over love, power over me, since he'd walked away to marry Vivienne Castellano and seal an alliance that would make him untouchable in the criminal underworld. 6 months since my heart had broken so thoroughly, I'd thought I'd never breathe again. He looked the same. Devastatingly, impossibly the same. Tall and broad-shouldered in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than I made in a month, his dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble. Strong jaw, high cheekbones, a mouth I'd once known intimately, but it was his eyes that held me frozen, those storm-gray eyes that had seen through every defense I'd ever built, those eyes that were currently traveling over me, taking in my flour-dusted appearance, my simple uniform, and stopping, widening fractionally, the small but unmistakable curve of my stomach. The silence stretched between us, loaded with everything we'd never said, everything that had broken us apart, everything that had died the night he chose obligation over us. "You're pregnant." Not a question. An accusation wrapped in shock. My hand moved instinctively to my stomach, protective, possessive. "That's none of your business. Julia." My name on his lips still had the power to make me shiver, but I locked my knees, refused to show weakness. "We need to talk." "No." The word came out stronger than I felt. We really don't. He took a step forward, and I saw Angela shift nervously in my peripheral vision. Everyone knew who Oliver Moretti was, what he represented. Power and danger wrapped in expensive suits and cold smiles. Is it mine? His voice was low, dangerous, with an undercurrent of something I couldn't identify. Hope? Fear? Fury? A laugh escaped me, bitter and broken. You lost the right to ask me anything when you married another woman. I'm not... He stopped, his jaw tightening. The marriage hasn't happened yet. The words hit me like a physical blow. 6 months I'd been telling myself he was married, that he'd moved on, that whatever we'd had was truly over. 6 months of rebuilding myself on the foundation of that finality. But it will, I said flatly. It will happen because that's what you chose, Oliver. You chose power and alliances and your precious empire over us. Over me. So no, you don't get to walk in here and demand answers about my life, my body, my baby. Our baby. His voice had gone deadly quiet, the voice he used when he was most dangerous. If it's mine, Julia, then it's our baby. There is no hour anymore, I said, turning back to the pastry boxes, desperate to hide the tears threatening to spill. There hasn't been for 6 months. Now take your order and leave. I felt him move closer, felt the heat of his body even though he didn't touch me. Didn't dare. I'm not leaving until you tell me the truth. Is it mine? Angela cleared her throat. Mr. Moretti, your order is ready. Julia, why don't you take your break? She was trying to help, to give me an escape. But there was no escape from Oliver Moretti. There never had been. The baby isn't yours, I lied, meeting his eyes with every ounce of strength I had left. You don't have to worry about it complicating your perfect alliance marriage. Something flashed in his eyes, too fast to read. Then his hand shot out, gripping my wrist with gentle but unmistakable possession. His thumb found my pulse point, pressing lightly, and I knew he could feel how my heart was racing. You're lying. His voice was soft, certain. I can always tell when you're lying, Tesoro. The endearment, Italian for treasure, the name he'd called me in our most intimate moments, nearly broke me. Don't call me that. You don't have the right. I have every right. His grip tightened fractionally. If you're carrying my child, I'm not. The lie tasted like ash. It's someone else's. His eyes darkened with something primal and possessive. Whose? That's none of your... Whose, Julia? The question was a command, laced with barely controlled fury. Before I could answer, before I could spin another lie, the bell above the door chimed again. I glanced toward the front, and my heart sank. Orlando Martinez stood in the doorway, shaking rain from his dark hair, a bright smile on his handsome face. My best friend. My salvation these past months. The man who'd held me while I cried and helped me build a new life from the ashes of the old one. The man Oliver was about to completely misunderstand. Jules, Orlando called, moving toward the counter. Ready for lunch? I'm starving, and this baby... He stopped mid-sentence, finally noticing the tension crackling through the small space. His gaze moved from me to Oliver and back again, understanding dawning in his dark eyes. Oliver's hand fell away from my wrist. When I looked at him, his expression had gone cold, closed off in a way I remembered from business dealings, from moments when he was calculating his next move. I see, he said, his voice like ice. His gaze flickered to Orlando, assessing, cataloging. This is the father. I should have corrected him, should have explained that Orlando was gay, that we were just friends, that this was all a terrible misunderstanding. But looking at Oliver's face, at the muscle ticking in his jaw, at the fury and hurt and possession warring in his storm-gray eyes. I made a choice. "Yes," I said quietly. "Orlando is the father." Orlando's sharp intake of breath told me he understood what I was doing, even if he didn't agree with it. But he didn't contradict me. My loyal, wonderful friend simply moved to my side, his hand settling protectively on my lower back. "We should go," Orlando said softly, speaking directly to me. "You've been on your feet all morning. The doctor said you need to rest more." Oliver's eyes tracked the gesture, the casual intimacy, the protective stance. Something in his expression shattered, then reformed into something harder, colder. "Of course," he said, his voice devoid of emotion. "I wouldn't want to keep you from your family." The word family, delivered like a curse, made my chest tighten with guilt and longing and loss. He turned to Angela. "The Moretti order. I'll take it now." As Angela rushed to get his pastries, as Oliver stood rigid and controlled by the counter, as Orlando whispered, "Are you sure about this?" In my ear, I felt the weight of my choice settling over me like a shroud. I'd protected my baby, protected myself. I'd given Oliver an out, a reason to walk away and never look back. So why did it feel like I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life? Oliver took the boxes without looking at me again, handed Angela what I was certain was far too much money, and walked toward the door. Just before he left, he paused, his hand on the frame. "Congratulations," he said, still not turning around. "I hope he gives you everything you deserve, Julia. Everything I couldn't." Then he was gone, disappeared into the rain like he'd never been there at all. I sagged against Orlando, my knees suddenly weak. Did I do the right thing? His arm came around me, steadying, supporting. "I don't know, Jules, but I know Oliver Moretti, and I know that look in his eyes." He pressed a kiss to my temple. "This isn't over, not by a long shot." I wanted to argue, to insist that it was over, that Oliver would go back to his world and his pending marriage and forget about me entirely. But as I watched his car pull away through the rain-streaked windows, as I felt the flutter of life in my belly, as I remembered the possessive fury in his eyes when he'd thought Orlando was the father, I knew Orlando was right. This wasn't over. It was only beginning. The flowers arrived the next morning. 3 dozen white roses, delivered before the bakery even opened, with a card that read simply, "We need to talk." Oh. I threw them in the dumpster behind the building. By noon, there were more. Peonies this time, my favorites, though I'd only mentioned that once in passing during our time together. The card, "Please, Tesoro. Give me an hour." Those went in the dumpster too. The third delivery came as I was closing up. A massive arrangement of orchids and lilies that must have cost a fortune. No card this time, but the message was clear. I'm not giving up. "You know he's just going to keep sending them," Angela said, watching me determinedly ignore the flowers sitting on the counter. "Oliver Moretti doesn't do anything halfway. Then he can keep wasting his money," I muttered, wiping down the already spotless counters with more force than necessary. But Angela was right. Over the next week, the deliveries escalated. Flowers every day, each arrangement more elaborate than the last. Then came the gifts. A cashmere blanket in the softest cream. A first edition of my favorite novel. A mobile for the baby's room that played a lullaby I'd hummed once while we'd lain tangled together in his bed. Each gift was carefully chosen, personal, showing that he remembered everything about me. Everything we'd been. I donated them all to charity. "You're being stubborn," Orlando said, sprawled on my couch in the tiny apartment I'd rented in a building far from Oliver's territory. "He clearly wants to talk." "I don't care what he wants," I said, folding baby clothes that my coworker had given me, secondhand but clean and soft. He made his choice 6 months ago. And you just lied to him about being the father of his child. The accusation, delivered gently, still stung. I protected my baby, our baby, from being a pawn in his world. Orlando sat up, his handsome face serious. Jules, I love you. You know I do. But you can't keep this secret forever. He's going to find out the truth. How? I challenged. You're not going to tell him. No one at the bakery knows the full story. And even if he suspects, he can't prove anything. He's Oliver Moretti. Orlando's voice was flat. If he wants to know something, he'll find out. As if summoned by our conversation, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. And again. On the 5th call, I answered. Stop calling me. Then talk to me. Oliver's voice, rough with frustration and something else I couldn't identify. 5 minutes, Julia. That's all I'm asking. You don't get to ask me for anything, I said, my hand tightening on the phone. You made your choice. I haven't married her. The words came out rushed, desperate in a way I'd never heard from him. The wedding is in 2 weeks, and I haven't... Julia, please. Just talk to me. My heart clenched traitorously at the pain in his voice. Why? What difference does it make now? Because I can't... He stopped, and I heard him take a breath. Because every time I close my eyes, I see you. Pregnant. Building a life with someone else. Building the life we should have had. Tears burned my eyes. You were the one who walked away, Oliver. You chose your empire over us. I know. The admission was quiet. Broken. I know. And I've regretted it every day since. But Julia, if there's even a chance... There isn't, I interrupted, hardening my heart against the ache in his voice. Move on, Oliver. Marry Vivienne. Build your empire. Forget about me. I ended the call before he could respond, before I could weaken, before I could make the mistake of believing him again. Orlando was watching me with worried eyes. Jules. Don't. I swiped at my tears angrily. He doesn't get to do this. He doesn't get to come back now and act like he cares, like he wants this, when he's still planning to marry someone else in 2 weeks. What if he calls off the wedding? The question hung in the air between us. What if? What if Oliver chose differently this time? What if he fought for us, for me, for our baby? He won't, I said, the words hollow even to my own ears. The alliance with the Castellanos is too important. His empire depends on it. Then why is he doing all this? Orlando gestured vaguely at the apartment, at the gifts I'd refused to keep, at the phone still clutched in my hand. Why chase you if he's just going to marry her anyway? I didn't have an answer. The next morning, I arrived at the bakery to find a black Mercedes parked in front, sleek and expensive, and entirely out of place in this neighborhood. My heart sank. Oliver was leaning against the hood, perfectly composed in another expensive suit, a coffee cup in each hand. He straightened when he saw me approach, and I noticed the shadows under his eyes, the tightness around his mouth that spoke of sleepless nights. Good. He should suffer like I'd suffered. I brought coffee, he said, offering 1 cup. Decaf, with vanilla creamer and 1 sugar, the way you like it. I walked past him without taking it, pulling out my keys to unlock the bakery. Go away, Oliver. I can't. He followed me inside, his presence filling the small space. Julia, please, just listen to me. I don't want to hear it, I said, moving behind the counter, putting physical distance between us. Whatever you think you need to say, I don't want to hear it. He set both coffee cups down carefully, his movements controlled. The baby is none of your concern. If it's mine, it's not. The lie came easier now, though it still tasted bitter. I told you, Orlando is the father. Oliver's jaw tightened. I don't believe you. I don't care what you believe, then prove it. He leaned forward, his hands flat on the counter between us. Take a paternity test. If the baby isn't mine, I'll leave you alone. I'll marry Vivian, and you'll never hear from me again. My heart hammered against my ribs. And if I refuse, then I'll know you're lying. His gray eyes held mine with uncomfortable intensity. And I'll fight for my child, Julia. I'll fight with everything I have. You can't force me to take a test. No, he agreed, but I can make your life very difficult if you don't. There it was, the threat beneath the flowers and gifts and desperate phone calls. The reminder of who Oliver Moretti really was, what he was capable of. There it is, I said coldly. The real you. The man who uses power and threats to get what he wants. Something flickered in his eyes. Shame, maybe, or regret. Julia, get out. My voice shook despite my efforts to stay calm. Get out of my workplace, out of my life, and don't come back. He stared at me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, he reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope, setting it on the counter between us. What's that? I asked warily. The truth, he said quietly. About why I'm marrying Vivian. About what will happen if I don't. He paused. Read it or don't. That's your choice. But Julia, everything I've done, every decision I've made, has been to protect the people I love, including you. He turned to leave, then stopped at the door. The coffee's getting cold. You should drink it. You need to keep your strength up. His hand rested on the doorframe. For the baby, my baby, whether you're ready to admit it or not. Then he was gone, leaving me alone with 2 cups of coffee and an envelope I was terrified to open. I waited until after my shift. Waited until I was home, doors locked, Orlando on speed dial. Only then did I open the envelope with shaking hands. Inside were documents, contracts, and photographs that made my blood run cold. The Castellanos weren't just a powerful family looking to ally with Oliver's empire. They were his enemies, had been for years, locked in a silent war over territory and power. A war that had already claimed lives. The photographs showed bodies, men I recognized from Oliver's inner circle, murdered execution style. And there were more pictures. Surveillance photos of me, from months ago, when Oliver and I had still been together. Someone had been watching us, tracking my movements, documenting my relationship with Oliver. The final document was a letter, handwritten in elegant script, a threat, delivered with perfect politeness. Marry Vivian, align the families, or watch everyone you love die. Starting with the girl, me. They'd threatened me. And Oliver, rather than risk my life, had agreed to the marriage. My hands shook as I set the papers down. All this time, I'd thought he'd chosen power over love. But he'd chosen my safety over his own happiness. He'd sacrificed us to save me. The realization should have changed everything. Should have made me run to him, apologize, confess the truth about the baby. But it didn't. Because now I understood something even more important. Being with Oliver meant living in constant danger. It meant my child growing up with a target on their back, with enemies who wouldn't hesitate to use an innocent baby as a weapon. I'd been right to lie, right to push him away, even if it was killing me to do it. My phone rang. Oliver's number. I answered. You read it? He said. Not a question. Yes. Then you understand. His voice was quiet, resigned. Why I'm doing this. Why I have to. I understand, I said, tears streaming down my face. I understand that your world is no place for a child, that I made the right choice, lying to you. Silence. Then, Julia, I would burn down my entire empire before I let anyone hurt you or that baby. I know, I whispered, but you shouldn't have to make that choice, and neither should our child. The admission slipped out before I could stop it. Our child, Oliver repeated, his voice rough with emotion. You admit it. It doesn't matter, I said, though my heart was breaking. It doesn't change anything. You still have to marry Vivian. I still have to stay away from you. Our baby... My voice cracked. Our baby will be safer if you're not in their life. No. The word was absolute. No, Julia. I won't accept that. You don't have a choice. There's always a choice. I could hear movement on his end, the sound of a door closing. I'm calling off the wedding. My heart stopped. Oliver, you can't. The Castellanos will... Let them try. His voice was hard, determined, the voice of a man who'd made a decision and wouldn't be swayed. I'm done sacrificing the people I love for power, done letting fear dictate my choices. If they want a war, I'll give them one. But I won't lose you again, Julia. I won't lose our child. This is insane, I whispered. They'll kill you. Maybe. He sounded almost calm. Or maybe I'll kill them first. Either way, I'm not marrying Vivian Castellano. I'm coming for you, Tesoro. I'm coming for our family. And nothing. Not the Castellanos. Not your lies. Not your fear. Will stop me. The line went dead. I sat there, phone still pressed to my ear, as Orlando emerged from my bedroom where he'd been giving me privacy. What happened? He asked, taking in my tear-stained face. I think, I said slowly, I just started a war. The news broke 3 days later. Oliver Moretti publicly called off his engagement to Vivian Castellano, citing irreconcilable differences in a statement that fooled exactly no one. Within hours, the Castellano family had issued their own statement, cold and threatening, promising consequences for breaking sacred agreements. I knew what that meant. War. And it was all my fault. You need to leave the city, Orlando insisted, pacing my small living room while I sat frozen on the couch. Jules, do you understand what you've done? What he's done? The Castellanos don't forgive insults like this. I didn't ask him to call off the wedding, I protested weakly, my hand resting protectively on my growing belly. I told him to go through with it. And you really thought Oliver Moretti would choose duty over you? Orlando stopped pacing, fixing me with an incredulous look. You told him about the baby, Jules. Of course he wasn't going to let you go. He was right. I'd known, somewhere deep down, that admitting the truth would change everything. That Oliver wouldn't walk away from his child, no matter the cost. I'd just hoped I was wrong. My phone had been ringing constantly since the news broke. Calls from unknown numbers, from Oliver's people, from reporters who'd somehow gotten my information. I'd stopped answering after the first few threats, after a woman's cold voice had promised that the Moretti whore would pay for destroying the alliance. I'd changed my number twice. They still found me. I can protect you, Orlando said gently, sitting beside me. My family has a villa in Spain. You could stay there, have the baby safely. No one would find you. It was tempting. God, it was so tempting. To run, to hide, to raise my baby far from the violence and danger of Oliver's world. But I'd tried running before, and Oliver had found me anyway. As if summoned by my thoughts, a knock sounded at the door. 3 sharp raps, decisive and familiar. Oliver. Orlando moved to answer, but I stopped him with a hand on his arm. Let me. I checked the peephole, a habit I'd developed over the past few days, and found Oliver standing in the hallway, flanked by 2 men I recognized from his security detail. He looked exhausted, his usually perfect appearance slightly disheveled, his suit jacket missing, his white shirt sleeves rolled up. I opened the door. Julia. Relief flooded his features. Thank God. I've been trying to reach you. I changed my number, I said, not moving aside to let him in. For the 3rd time this week. His jaw tightened. The threats, I know. That's why I'm here. I'm taking you somewhere safe. I'm not going anywhere with you, I said, though my heart raced at his proximity. You've done enough damage. Damage? His voice rose slightly. Julia, I'm trying to protect you. The Castellanos are furious. Because of you, I interrupted. Because you couldn't just let me go. Couldn't just marry Vivian and move on with your life. Move on? He stepped closer, and I saw Orlando shift defensively behind me. You're carrying my child, Julia. Did you really think I could move on from that? From you? You should have, I said, hating how my voice shook. You should have thought about what breaking that alliance would mean, what it would cost. I know exactly what it will cost, Oliver said quietly, dangerously. And I don't care. I won't sacrifice my family for power, Julia. Not again. Never again. The raw emotion in his voice made my chest tighten. I'm not your family. Yes, you are. He moved closer, close enough that I could smell his cologne, feel the heat radiating from his body. You've always been my family. From the moment I met you, you were mine. I just forgot that for a while. Let fear and duty cloud what really mattered. Oliver. Let me finish. His hand came up, not touching me, but hovering near my face as though he desperately wanted to. 6 months ago, I made the worst decision of my life. I thought I was protecting you by walking away, by accepting the Castellano alliance. I thought keeping you separate from my world would keep you safe. He laughed bitterly. But it didn't, did it? They still found you, still threatened you. And when they did, I realized something. You were never going to be safe without me. Neither was our child. The only way to truly protect you is to destroy anyone who would dare threaten my family. That's insane, I whispered. You can't just go to war with the Castellanos because... I can, and I will. His voice was steel. I've already started. 3 of their operations shut down yesterday. 2 more this morning. By the end of the week, they'll understand that threatening what's mine has consequences. Orlando cursed softly behind me. You're starting a bloodbath. I'm ending a threat, Oliver corrected, his eyes never leaving mine. And when I'm done, when the Castellanos and anyone else who might think to use my family against me are dealt with, Julia and our baby will be the most protected people in this city. At what cost? I asked, tears burning my eyes. How many people will die because you couldn't let me go? Something flickered in his expression. Pain, regret, but also an unwavering determination. However many it takes, the cold certainty in his voice should have terrified me. Instead, it broke something inside me, the dam I'd been building to keep my emotions in check. You can't do this, I said, the words tumbling out through tears. You can't destroy your empire, can't start a war, can't throw everything away for us. The baby and I, we're not worth... Don't. His hand finally made contact, cupping my face with devastating gentleness. Don't you dare say you're not worth it. You're worth everything, Julia. Everything I have, everything I am, everything I could ever be. You and our child are the only things that matter. I lied to you, I confessed, my voice breaking. I let you think Orlando was the father because I was scared, because I didn't want our baby trapped in your world, because I thought pushing you away would protect us both. And now look what I've caused. People are going to die because people were always going to die, Oliver interrupted softly, his thumb wiping away my tears. This war with the Castellanos has been brewing for years. The engagement to Vivienne was a temporary band-aid, not a solution. Eventually, it would have come to this anyway. But the timing is perfect, he finished. Because now I'm not fighting just for power or territory. I'm fighting for something that actually matters. For you. For our baby. For the family I thought I'd lost. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted so desperately to believe that this could work, that we could have a future together. But I'd seen the documents, seen the photographs of dead men, seen what Oliver's world really looked like beneath the expensive suits and polite smiles. I'm scared, I admitted. I'm terrified that loving you will get our baby killed. Then let me be terrified for both of us, Oliver said, pulling me closer, his other hand settling protectively over my stomach, over our child. Let me handle the fear and the danger and the violence. You just focus on staying safe, on taking care of yourself and this baby. Our baby, Julia. Let me prove that I can keep you both safe. How? I asked, searching his eyes. How can you promise that when the Castellanos want us dead? Because I'm very good at what I do, he said simply. Because I have resources they can't match, allies they don't know about, and a motivation they can't understand. They fight for power and territory. I'm fighting for my family. That makes me far more dangerous. Orlando cleared his throat. As much as I hate to interrupt this moment, we have a problem. There are 2 black SUVs parked across the street. They've been there for the past 20 minutes. Oliver's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes went cold. I know. They're Castellano soldiers. I've been tracking them since they started following Julia 3 days ago. They've been following me? My voice rose in panic. For 3 days, and you didn't think to mention... I had men on them the entire time, Oliver said calmly. They never got within 50 feet of you. But yes, they've been watching, waiting for an opportunity. Which is why you're coming with me tonight, Julia. No more arguments. I can't just leave my life. Your life? He gestured around the small apartment. This isn't a life, Tesoro. This is survival. You're working yourself to exhaustion in a bakery, living in a place with broken locks and thin walls, barely making rent. That's not how I want my child raised. The criticism stung, even though I knew he was right. I was doing fine before you came back. You were barely getting by, he corrected gently. And now you're in danger because of me. So let me fix it. Let me take you somewhere safe. Somewhere the Castellanos can't reach you. Let me give our baby the life they deserve. I looked at Orlando, seeking his opinion. My friend sighed. I hate to say it, Jules, but he's right. You can't stay here, not with them watching. Betrayed by my best friend, cornered by circumstances, and faced with the undeniable truth that I'd put my baby at risk by lying, I felt my resistance crumbling. Where would we go? I asked quietly. Oliver's relief was palpable. I have a house outside the city, completely secure, off the grid. You'll have everything you need, doctors, security, space. Orlando can come too, if that makes you feel safer. I'm not leaving you alone with him, Orlando confirmed, crossing his arms. Oliver nodded, accepting this. Fine, but we leave now, tonight. Pack whatever you need. Everything else, I'll provide. It was happening too fast. My carefully rebuilt life, my independence, my My plans to raise this baby on my own, all of it dissolving in the face of Oliver's certainty and the very real threat waiting outside. I need time to think. I tried one last time. We don't have time. Oliver's voice was firm. In 2 hours, I'm moving against the Castellano operation on the east side. When I do, they'll retaliate, and the first place they'll hit is here. So you can think on the drive, Tesoro, but you're leaving with me in 5 minutes, whether you've packed or not. He wasn't asking anymore, wasn't negotiating. This was Oliver Moretti, mob boss, taking control of a situation that had spiraled beyond my ability to manage. And God help me, I was relieved. Fine, I said, the word a surrender and an acceptance. 5 minutes. As I moved to my bedroom to pack, as Orlando followed to help, as Oliver made calls to his people in a low, dangerous voice, I felt the last of my illusions about independence shatter. I'd tried to escape Oliver's world, but I'd brought his child into mine instead. And now, there was no escape for either of us. We were his, whether I'd wanted it or not. And the war had only just begun. Oliver's house was actually an estate, sprawling and elegant, hidden behind high walls and sophisticated security. The drive had taken 2 hours, Oliver insisting on taking a circuitous route to ensure we weren't followed. I'd sat in the back of his armored SUV, Orlando beside me, watching the city lights give way to darkness and trees. Now, standing in the foyer of this mansion, I felt completely out of my depth. The master suite is upstairs, Oliver said, his hand at the small of my back, guiding me toward the sweeping staircase. You'll stay there. Orlando, the guest wing is... I'm staying near Julia, Orlando interrupted. Oliver's jaw tightened, but he nodded. The room next to mine, then. He looked at me. Unless you'd prefer separate... Separate, I said quickly. Too quickly. Something flickered in his eyes. Hurt, maybe. But he just nodded. The room across the hall has been prepared for you. Everything you should need. A woman appeared, older, with kind eyes and a soft smile. Mr. Moretti, the doctor is here for Ms. She hesitated. Julia, I supplied. Just Julia. The doctor is here for Julia, she corrected smoothly. Whenever she's ready. Doctor? I turned to Oliver. I have a doctor. Had a doctor. He corrected. Doctor. Sarah Chen is one of the best OB-GYNs in the state. She's been fully briefed on your situation and has agreed to provide your prenatal care going forward. You can't just... I can, and I did. His voice was firm, but gentle. You're 5 months pregnant with my child, Julia. I'm not leaving your health to chance. I wanted to argue, to insist on my right to make my own decisions. But the truth was, I'd been skipping appointments because I couldn't afford them, taking prenatal vitamins from the dollar store and hoping everything would be okay. Fine, I conceded, but I'm keeping my old doctor too. Oliver's lips curved slightly. Whatever makes you comfortable. Dr. Chen was professional and thorough, conducting an exam that confirmed what I already knew. The baby was healthy, growing right on schedule. She showed me the ultrasound images, pointing out tiny features I could barely make out. Would you like to know the sex? She asked. I hesitated, glancing at Oliver, who stood by the door, giving us privacy but unable to stay away entirely. Do you want to know? I asked him. He crossed the room immediately, his eyes locked on the ultrasound screen. If you do. It's a girl, Dr. Chen said with a smile. A very healthy little girl. I watched Oliver's face as the words registered, watched his expression soften, watched him swallow hard, watched him reach out to touch the ultrasound screen with gentle fingers. A daughter, he breathed. We're having a daughter. The wonder in his voice made my eyes sting with tears. This was real. Not just a pregnancy I'd been managing alone, but a baby. His baby. Our daughter. She's perfect, I whispered. Like her mother, Oliver said, his hand finding mine, squeezing gently. After Dr. Chen left, after Orlando had been shown to his room, after the staff had retreated for the night, I found myself alone with Oliver in the hallway between our rooms. "Thank you," I said quietly. "For the doctor. For all of this." "You don't have to thank me," he replied, leaning against the doorframe, exhaustion evident in the lines around his eyes. "Taking care of you and our daughter. That's not a favor, Julia. It's my responsibility. My privilege." "I'm still angry with you," I felt compelled to say, "for everything that happened, for choosing duty over us 6 months ago." "I know." He didn't make excuses. "And you have every right to be. I made the wrong choice, and I've spent every day since regretting it." "But you'd make the same choice again," I said, not quite a question. He was silent for a long moment. 6 months ago? Yes. I thought I was protecting you. Thought keeping you separate from my world was the answer. He pushed off the doorframe, moving closer. Now? Now I know the only way to protect you is to keep you close. To make sure everyone understands that you and our daughter are mine, and that threatening my family is the last mistake anyone will ever make. The possessiveness should have bothered me. Instead, it made me feel safe in a way I hadn't felt in months. "I don't know how to do this," I admitted. "How to be with you, how to raise a baby in your world, how to navigate all of this." "Then we'll figure it out together," he said simply. "One day at a time, one decision at a time." His hand came up, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. "I'm not asking you to forgive me, Tesoro. Not yet. I just need you to trust that I'll keep you safe, that I'll keep our daughter safe. Can you do that? Could I? After everything, after the lies and the pain and the fear, could I trust Oliver Moretti with my heart, with my child, with my future?" I thought about the alternatives. Thought about raising my daughter alone, constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering when the Castellanos would make their move. Thought about the threats, the surveillance, the very real danger that came with being connected to Oliver whether I wanted to be or not. At least here, with him, I had protection, resources, a man who would burn down the world to keep us safe. "I'll try," I said finally. "I'll try to trust you." His smile was soft, genuine, the first real smile I'd seen from him since he'd walked back into my life. "That's all I ask." He leaned in, and for a moment, I thought he was going to kiss me. My breath caught, my body remembering his touch, craving it despite everything. But he just pressed his lips to my forehead, gentle and chaste. "Sleep well, Julia. Tomorrow we start building our future." The first 2 weeks at Oliver's estate passed in a strange domestic routine that felt both surreal and comfortable. I woke to breakfast prepared by his staff, spent afternoons reading in the library or walking the gardens with Orlando, had dinner with Oliver when he wasn't handling business in the city. We danced around each other, polite and careful, like strangers learning to be family. The baby, our daughter, became our safe topic. Oliver was consumed with preparations, converting one of the rooms into a nursery with an enthusiasm that would have been endearing if it wasn't so overwhelming. Designers came and went, presenting color schemes and furniture options. He consulted me on everything, but I could tell he'd already made most of the decisions. "What do you think of this crib?" he'd ask, showing me yet another expensive option. "It's beautiful," I'd say, because they were all beautiful, all far nicer than anything I could have afforded on my own. "But do you love it?" he'd press. "Because our daughter deserves the best." Our daughter. He said it constantly, claiming her with those words, even though she hadn't been born yet. I should have found it suffocating, Instead, after months of facing pregnancy alone, of being the only one who cared, of carrying the weight of every decision by myself, it was a relief to share the burden. Orlando noticed, of course. "You're softening toward him," he said one afternoon as we sat in the sunroom, watching Oliver through the window as he argued with someone on the phone. "I'm being practical," I corrected. "He's the father of my child. We have to find a way to coexist." "Coexist?" Orlando raised an eyebrow. "Jules, the man looks at you like you're oxygen and he's drowning. That's not coexisting. That's—" "Don't," I interrupted. "Don't read into it. He feels responsible for me because of the baby. That's all." "If you really believe that, you're lying to yourself." Maybe I was, but it was easier than confronting the truth, that I was falling for Oliver all over again. That watching him transform into a devoted father-to-be was breaking down every wall I'd built. That I wanted this, the security, the partnership, the family we could be, more than I wanted to protect my pride. The bubble burst on a Wednesday evening. I'd just come downstairs for dinner when I heard raised voices from Oliver's study. Male voices, urgent and angry. "Can't keep this from her forever, Oliver. She has a right to know. She's pregnant and under enough stress as it is." Oliver's voice controlled but tight. "I'll tell her when the time is right." The time is right now, before she finds out from someone else. Dread pooled in my stomach. I should have walked away, should have given them privacy. Instead, I moved closer to the partially open door. "The Castellanos have doubled the bounty," the other voice continued. Someone I didn't recognize. $2 million for information leading to Julia's location. There are people in your own organization who might be tempted by that kind of money. My blood ran cold. "Anyone who betrays me dies," Oliver said simply. "My people know that." "Do they also know you've been liquidating assets to fund this war? That you've pulled resources from other operations to protect one woman?" "To protect my family," Oliver corrected sharply. "Some of the other families are getting nervous, boss. They're saying you're compromised. That the Moretti Empire is weak, while you're distracted playing house with your pregnant girlfriend. She's not my girlfriend. She's the mother of my child, and anyone who has a problem with my priorities is welcome to challenge me directly." Silence. Then, 3 challenges have already been filed. The council is calling for a meeting next week. The council. Even I knew what that meant. The ruling body of the major crime families, the ones who settled disputes and maintained order in the underworld. If they were getting involved. "Let them meet," Oliver said coldly. "I'll be there. And Julia will be protected. Always." I'd heard enough, more than enough. I stumbled away from the door, my heart racing, my mind reeling with the implications of what I'd overheard. $2 million bounty. Challenges from other families. Oliver's empire fracturing because of me. "Jules?" Orlando appeared at the top of the stairs. "You okay? You look pale." "I need to talk to Oliver," I said, my voice shaking. "Now." I didn't wait for the other man to leave. I pushed open the study door and walked in, ignoring the startled look from Oliver's associate. "Out," Oliver said to the man, his eyes on me. The man left quickly, closing the door behind him. "How much did you hear?" Oliver asked quietly. "Enough," I said, wrapping my arms around myself. "Enough to know that being with me is destroying everything you've built." "Julia." $2 million, Oliver. The Castellanos are offering $2 million for my location, and your own families are turning against you because you're compromised. I used his associate's word, bitter and sharp. This is exactly what I was afraid of. This is why I lied, why I tried to push you away. He moved around the desk, but I held up a hand, stopping him. "How much have you lost?" I demanded. How much of your empire have you sacrificed to keep me safe? It doesn't matter. It matters to me. My voice rose. I won't be the reason you lose everything, Oliver. I won't let my daughter grow up knowing her father destroyed himself for us. I'm not destroying myself, he said, his voice calm despite my outburst. I'm rebuilding, creating something better, something worth protecting. By starting a war? By making enemies of your allies? By putting my family first for once in my goddamn life. The sudden intensity in his voice stopped me mid-sentence. Do you know what it's like, Julia? Building an empire on blood and violence, making alliances with people you'd cross the street to avoid, compromising every value you have just to stay alive, to stay powerful. He moved closer, and this time, I didn't stop him. I've spent 15 years doing that. 15 years of being what my father wanted, what the families needed, what the business required. And for what? Power? Money? Territory that doesn't mean anything? His hands came up, framing my face. Then you walked into my life. You, with your kindness and your strength, and your refusal to be impressed by any of it. You made me want something different. Made me remember that there's more to life than survival and power games. I didn't mean to. I know, he said softly. You never meant to change everything. But you did. And when I found out about our daughter, when I realized I could have a real family, something worth protecting beyond money and power, Julia, I made a choice. I chose you. I chose her. And I'd make that choice 1,000 times over. Tears streamed down my face. But your empire will adapt, he finished, or it won't. Either way, I'm done sacrificing what matters for what doesn't. The families can challenge me. The council can question me. The Castellanos can offer $10 million for your location. I don't care. Because at the end of the day, if I lose everything but still have you and our daughter, I'll have won. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted so desperately to believe that love could be enough, that we could build a life together despite the danger and the threats and the empire crumbling around us. What if they kill you? I whispered. What if protecting us costs you your life? Then I'll die knowing I finally got my priorities straight. His thumb wiped away my tears. But I won't die to sorrow. I'm too mean, too smart, and too motivated. No one takes what's mine and lives to celebrate it. I'm scared, I admitted. Good, he said. Fear keeps you careful. But don't let it paralyze you. Don't let it stop you from accepting what we could have together. What could we have? I asked. Really? Beyond protection and security in this beautiful prison. His smile was soft, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen from him. Everything, Julia. We could have everything. A family. A future. Love, if you'll let me earn it back. You can't earn back something that never left, I confessed, the words escaping before I could stop them. I tried to stop loving you, Oliver. For 6 months I tried. But I couldn't. Even when I hated you, even when I was terrified and alone and pregnant, I still loved you. His forehead dropped to mine, his breath shaking. Te amo, mi tesoro. I love you. I've loved you since the day we met, and I'll love you until the day I die. This time when he kissed me, it wasn't gentle or chaste. It was desperate and claiming and full of 6 months of longing and regret and hope. I kissed him back with everything I had, pouring all my fear and love and trust into this moment, this surrender. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Oliver rested his hand on my swollen belly, on our daughter. Marry me, he said. Not because you're pregnant, or because I'm trying to protect you, but because you love me, and I love you, and we deserve a chance at happiness. People are trying to kill us, I pointed out. People have always been trying to kill me, he countered. Now I just have a better reason to stay alive. I should have said no. Should have insisted we wait until the danger passed, until his empire stabilized, until we were certain this could work. But I'd spent 6 months being cautious and alone, 6 months protecting my heart at the cost of everything else. Yes, I said, the word a leap of faith and a homecoming all at once. Yes, I'll marry you. His smile was radiant, transforming his face. Tomorrow. We'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow, I laughed through my tears. Oliver, we can't. We can and we will, he said with characteristic determination. I'm not waiting another day to make you my wife, Julia. I'm not giving the universe another chance to tear us apart. And looking into his eyes, seeing the absolute certainty there, feeling our daughter move under his hand, I found myself believing. Maybe we could have everything. Maybe love really was enough. Maybe, just maybe, we could build our own empire. Not on blood and power, but on family and trust and this fierce, impossible love. Tomorrow, I agreed. But Orlando has to be there. Obviously, Oliver said. He's family too. Family. The word settled over us like a blessing and a promise. Our family, built on ashes and hope. And nothing, not the Castellanos, not the council, not the entire underworld, would tear us apart again. The wedding was everything and nothing I'd imagined. No elaborate ceremony, no hundreds of guests, no white dress and formal vows. Just Oliver and me, Orlando standing as my witness, and a judge who owed Oliver enough favors to come to the estate at midnight and ask no questions. I wore a simple cream dress that accommodated my belly. Oliver wore his usual suit, and in a library that smelled of leather and old books, we spoke the words that bound us together, legally. I do, I said, meaning it with every fiber of my being. I do, Oliver echoed, sliding a ring onto my finger, a simple platinum band engraved with coordinates. When I looked at him questioningly, he smiled. The location where we first met, so you'll always remember where this started. After the judge left, after Orlando hugged me and whispered, I hope you know what you're doing. After the staff had toasted our marriage with champagne I couldn't drink, Oliver took my hand. Come with me, he said. I have something to show you. He led me to his study, to the desk where weeks ago I'd overheard that terrible conversation. Now, spread across its surface, were documents, contracts, transfers, legal papers. What is this? I asked. My empire, he said simply. Everything I've built, signed over to you. If something happens to me, it all becomes yours. The businesses, the properties, the accounts, everything our daughter will need to be safe and provided for. My breath caught. Oliver, I don't want... I know, he interrupted gently. You don't want my money or my power. But Julia, this isn't about what you want. It's about making sure you and our daughter are protected, no matter what. If the council votes against me, if the Castellanos succeed in... He stopped, his jaw tightening. Don't, I whispered, pressing my fingers to his lips. Don't talk about losing you. Not tonight. Not on our wedding night. His hand covered mine, pulling it away from his mouth so he could press a kiss to my palm. I'm not planning on losing, Tesoro. But I need to be realistic. The meeting with the council is in 2 days. Whatever they decide will determine everything. Then we'll face it together, I said firmly. No more secrets, no more protecting me from the truth. We're married now, Oliver. Whatever happens, we handle it as a team. Something in his expression softened. A team, I like that. He kissed me then, slow and deep and full of promises that had nothing to do with danger and everything to do with love. When he pulled back, his hand settled on my belly, on our daughter who chose that moment to kick. "She's active tonight," I said with a smile. "She knows something important is happening," Oliver replied, his voice full of wonder. "Knows her parents finally got their act together." I laughed, the sound surprising me with its genuine happiness. "We really did this. Got married in the middle of a mob war, with bounties on our heads and empires crumbling around us." "Best decision I ever made," he said, completely serious. The next 2 days passed in a strange state of suspended animation. Oliver spent hours in meetings with his people, coordinating strategy for the council meeting. I stayed at the estate, trying to distract myself with baby preparations and failing miserably. Orlando kept me company, his presence comforting even as my anxiety grew. "He'll be fine," he said for the 100th time. "Oliver's survived worse than this." "Has he?" I asked. "Has he ever gone into a council meeting with half his allies turned against him and a $2 million bounty on his wife's head?" Orlando had no answer for that. The morning of the council meeting, Oliver woke me before dawn. "I have to leave soon," he said, sitting on the edge of the bed, fully dressed in one of his intimidating dark suits. "But I wanted to see you first." I sat up, rubbing sleep from my eyes. "What time is it?" 5, he said. "The meeting starts at 8. It'll be over by noon, one way or another." The finality in his voice sent ice through my veins. "You sound like you're saying goodbye." "I'm being realistic," he said, his hand finding mine in the dim light. "The council has 3 options. They can support me. They can order me to end the war with the Castellanos and marry Vivienne. Or they can vote to remove me entirely." "Remove you?" My voice rose. "What does that mean?" "It means I'd be out of the organization, stripped of territory and protection, essentially exiled from the life." "That doesn't sound so bad," I said, hope flickering. "We could leave the city, start over somewhere." "Julia," he cut me off gently. "Being removed from the organization means I'd have no power, no influence, no way to protect you from the Castellanos or anyone else who wanted revenge. It's not freedom. It's a death sentence with extra steps." My hand tightened on his. "Then make them support you. Whatever it takes. Convince them." "I've done all I can," he said. "The rest is up to them. But Julia, I need you to know something. No matter what happens today, marrying you was the right choice. Building our family is the right choice. I have no regrets." "Oliver," he kissed me, silencing my protest. When he pulled back, his eyes were fierce. "Promise me something. If the council votes against me, if things go badly, you'll take our daughter and go to the coordinates in your ring. There's a house there, safe, with everything you'll need. Orlando will take you. Promise me." "I'm not leaving you," I said stubbornly. "Promise me," he repeated. "For our daughter. Promise me you'll keep her safe no matter what." Tears streamed down my face. "I promise. But you're coming back. You have to come back." "I'll do everything in my power," he said, pressing one last kiss to my forehead before standing. "I love you, Mrs. Moretti." "I love you too," I whispered. Then he was gone, and I was left alone with my fear and my prayers, and the terrible waiting. The hours crawled by. I tried to eat breakfast but couldn't. Tried to read but couldn't focus. Finally, I just paced, wearing a path in the carpet of the sitting room while Orlando watched with worried eyes. "It's noon," I said for the 10th time, checking my phone. He said it would be over by noon. "Meetings run long," Orlando said, though he looked as anxious as I felt. At 12:30, my phone rang. Unknown number. Don't answer it, Orlando warned, but I already had. Hello? Mrs. Moretti. A woman's voice, cold and elegant. Or should I say, the widow Moretti? My blood turned to ice. Who is this? Vivian Castellano, the woman your husband was supposed to marry before you seduced him away. It doesn't matter, she interrupted. What matters is that the council has made their decision, and I thought you should hear it from me, woman to woman. What decision? I demanded, my heart hammering. Oliver Moretti has been removed from the organization, stripped of all power and protection. As of noon today, he's nobody. She paused. And in case you're wondering, he didn't take it well. There was an altercation. He's currently in custody. Custody? My voice rose. What does that mean? Where is he? Somewhere safe, for now. But Mrs. Moretti, I'm calling to offer you a deal. Give yourself up, turn yourself over to my family, and we'll let Oliver live. He can be exiled, leave the city, build whatever pathetic normal life he dreams of. And if I refuse, then he dies. Tonight, along with anyone else stupid enough to protect you. The line went dead. I stood there, phone still pressed to my ear, as Orlando rushed to my side. What happened? Jules, what did they say? They have Oliver, I whispered. Vivienne, she said if I don't turn myself in, they'll kill him. It's a trap, Orlando said immediately. Jules, you can't. I have to. I was already moving, grabbing my coat, my phone. He's in danger because of me. I can't let him die. And what about the baby? Orlando grabbed my arm. What about your daughter? You think Oliver would want you to sacrifice her to save him? The words stopped me cold. My daughter. Our daughter. The life growing inside me, innocent and helpless. But Oliver was her father, the man I loved, the man who'd sacrificed everything for us. I can't let him die, I said again, tears streaming down my face. Then we think, Orlando said firmly. We make a plan. We don't just hand you over to people who want you dead. Before I could respond, the front door burst open. Oliver strode in, bloodied and disheveled, flanked by two of his men. Oliver! I ran to him, my hands hovering over the cut on his lip, the bruise forming on his jaw. Vivian said, Vivian is a liar, he said, pulling me into his arms. And she's dead. I pulled back, staring at him. What? The council meeting was a setup. The Castellanos had paid off enough members to guarantee my removal. But they didn't account for one thing. His smile was cold. I've been in this life since I was 18. I know where every body is buried, every secret each of those families once hidden. What did you do? I whispered. I gave them a choice. Support me, or I release everything. Every dirty deal, every murder, every piece of evidence I've collected over 15 years. I'd burn the entire underworld to the ground rather than let them separate me from my family. And they agreed? Orlando asked, stunned. Not all of them. 3 families voted against me anyway. The Castellanos, the Rossis, and the De Lucas. Oliver's voice was flat. So I removed them. Removed how? But I already knew. I could see it in his eyes, in the blood on his hands. They're gone. All of them. The council, what's left of it, has voted to support me. The bounty on your head has been lifted. The war is over. He cupped my face. We're safe, Julia. You and me and our daughter. We're finally safe. I should have been horrified. Should have recoiled from the violence, from the blood, from what he'd done. But all I felt was relief. Overwhelming, dizzying relief. It's really over? I asked. It's really over, he confirmed. No more threats. No more running. Just us, building the life we want. I threw my arms around him, not caring about the blood or the danger or anything except that he was here, alive, and we'd survived. I love you, I said against his chest. I love you so much. I love you too, Tesoro. His hand settled on my belly. Both of you, my family, my everything. 3 months later, I went into labor at 3 a.m. Oliver, who'd been sleeping lightly beside me since my 8th month, was up instantly, moving with the calm efficiency he brought to everything. "It's time?" he asked, already reaching for his phone to call Dr. Chen. "It's time," I confirmed, breathing through a contraction. The drive to the private hospital Oliver had arranged was surreal. Orlando met us there, having insisted on being present for his niece's birth. Dr. Chen was waiting, calm and professional. Labor was long and exhausting and more painful than I'd imagined. But through it all, Oliver was there, holding my hand, whispering encouragement, refusing to leave my side, even when I screamed at him that this was all his fault. "I know, Tesoro," he said, pressing a kiss to my sweaty forehead. "And I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you." At 4:47 p.m., our daughter entered the world with a furious cry that made both Oliver and me laugh through our tears. "She has your temper," I said as Dr. Chen placed her on my chest. This tiny, perfect miracle with a shock of dark hair and Oliver's eyes. "And your strength," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "She's perfect, Julia. You're both perfect." I looked down at our daughter, at this tiny person we'd created, and felt everything shift into focus. All the pain and fear and struggle had led to this moment, to this family we'd built from ashes and hope. "What should we name her?" I asked. Oliver traced a gentle finger down our daughter's cheek. "Esperanza. It means hope. Because that's what she is. Our hope. Our future. Our everything. Esperanza Moretti," I said, testing the name. "It's perfect." We stayed like that, the three of us wrapped together, as Orlando snapped photos and the staff buzzed around us. And I realized something fundamental had changed. I wasn't just Julia anymore. I was Mrs. Moretti, wife of Oliver, mother of Esperanza. Part of something bigger than myself. Something worth fighting for. Something built on love instead of fear. And looking at Oliver's face as he held our daughter for the first time, seeing the wonder and devotion and absolute commitment in his eyes, I knew we'd made it. We'd survived the war, the threats, the impossible odds. We'd built our family not despite the danger, but because of it. Because we'd both finally understood what truly mattered. Not power or money or empires built on blood, but this perfect, tiny person. This impossible love. This future we'd fight to protect with everything we had. "Welcome to the family, Esperanza," Oliver whispered, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "I promise you'll never want for anything. Love, protection, safety. It's all yours. Forever." And as I watched my husband with our daughter, as I felt the last pieces of my broken heart finally mend, I knew he'd keep that promise. Because Oliver Moretti didn't make promises he couldn't keep. And we were his family. His priority. His everything, just as he was ours.